Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today, I have a really special guest coming in from Germany, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah, yeah. So the other side of the ocean. So today with me is Tobias Erny, and Tobias is a researcher in Ibogaine and a co-director of the Iboga Alliance. It's such an honor to have you on today, Tobias. Welcome on.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yes, this is a really special episode where we're going to be talking about Tobias's awakening journey. We'll talk about Iboga, we'll talk about Ibogaine, we'll talk about the difference between the two, and then we'll talk about the different Parkinson's treatments with microdosing Ibogaine that Tobias has been studying. So, this is really special and really um, we have a lot of really interesting topics to talk about. So, uh, Tobias, would you be open to sharing how the spiritual journey started for you?
Sure. So, um, basically, I come from a quite Christian background, but in my teens, when you rebel against everything that your parents teach you or so, I um, went out of this Christian frame and I started trying a lot of different substances and which kept on going till I was in my early 20s,
Hmm.
where I worked then in the chemical pharmaceutical industry of Basel in Switzerland. And there we had access to quite a lot of stuff and tried a lot of things. And at some point, I also started to play around with opiates, which was um, taking me down a way which was not so pleasant. But being back then was the time of internet forums where people kind of exchanged a lot of information in forums. So I read about Ibogaine. It was 2003, I think,
Oh,
2004.
wow.
Yes. And right around this time, I also played with opiates. So at 2005, it just was too much with the opiates. My boss said, "Hey, you're too high in work, and that doesn't work anymore. You need to do something."
Hmm.
So I remembered, hey, I read something about Ibogaine helping there, and I'm anyhow interested in psychedelics. So I kind of taught my boss about Ibogaine, and I told him, "Look, there's this thing," and he was so kind to give me a special Ibogaine detox holiday. So I went and detoxed with Ibogaine,
Where did you
which
go?
then,
Did you go out of the country for that?
no.
Oh, okay.
In Germany, Ibogaine is legal, and Basel is right at the border to between Switzerland and Germany, so I could do it there.
Hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah, and um, basically, it was a quite interesting and intense experience. Um, which made me super interested more in Iboga and Ibogaine. A
Hmm.
bit further down the line, I then started also trying Iboga. And
Well, before
with
before you share about that, could you share a little bit about your first experience with it? Anything like how was it for you? I know some of my friends that have shared with me about it before, they've expressed how I've never worked with it, but they've expressed how their life basically takes them the medicine takes them through their life, like every year looking in deeply into the trauma, into the different layers of how they chose their reality and how they basically were navigating and how they were treated and the traumas and things like that were arising for them to look at.
Mhm. So with my first Ibogaine experience, um, it was rather confused for me. I didn't it was not this very precise movie of my life flashing before my eyes, but it was more of a very confused experience being confronted with my own inner chaos, so to say.
Hmm.
Um, after the experience, I was also quite confused. Um, but I stayed off the drugs of opiates for quite a while.
Hmm.
I had a relapse. I again took Ibogaine. Um, I stayed again off it for a while, and then I again had a relapse. Always, this was like always kind of 5 to 7 months of being clean and then slowly relapsing and then doing Ibogaine again.
Hmm.
A second Ibogaine experience was less confusing, but it kind of showed me my intra-psychological chaos again. And I kind of started to learn, hey, I need to work out my past, I need to work out my future. Um, what resulted from in between my first and second Ibogaine experience was that somehow the notion of being more honest came into my life. So I kind of didn't want to lie to myself anymore. I didn't want to lie to others anymore. So my first Ibogaine experience resulted in me at least having the intention of becoming an honest and upright person. You know, as an addict, sometimes you are not really honest to yourself and quite dishonest to others
Hmm.
about things. So I kind of realized in between this first and second Ibogaine experience that lying to myself doesn't benefit myself, and lying to others is basically the same as lying
Yeah.
to myself,
Yeah.
but externalized. So from there on, I started to kind of shift my life more into an honest, upright direction, or
Hmm.
I tried to, because I think it's if you live a long time as a dishonest person, lying to yourself, it takes quite some work to get an honest person. So it was a process that then started. And then after my second Ibogaine experience and after my second relapse, I realized, hey, I want to try Iboga. And I tried Iboga, and there I had much more these deep spiritual insights. It was like meeting an intelligence that I was not aware that existed before. So, I mean, I read about higher dimensions. I experienced mushrooms or LSD or things like this, but it was not as profound as with trying the Iboga, the full plant, the Iboga root bark.
Mm.
And with the Iboga root bark, basically what happened is that this plant spirit was there in my room all of a sudden,
Hmm.
and like a real person, like beaming there and being this glowing being that looked a bit like Groot, like from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, so it was
Um,
very like it looked like almost like a tree or like a plant type
yeah,
being.
or like an ant from the Lord of the Rings, you know, these
Right.
walking tree things,
Wow.
something in this direction.
Uh-huh.
And I was a bit amazed and scared, really
Yeah.
scared at first. And somehow it conveyed to me telepathically, like, hey, I'm there to help you,
Hmm.
and I gonna teach you, but I also gonna heal you. And I looked down at my body and I saw all my energetic systems, you know, like the nadis or the energetic meridians, like flowing, and I saw the chakras, I saw different things. And then I saw like some of my cables disconnected, so to say. Some of
Whoa.
these like real energetic uh how to say like cuts like where the energy couldn't flow correctly.
Hmm.
And so this being came and it reached into me, and the moment it touched my body, all this beautiful benevolent loving energy flowed through me,
Hmm.
and it's connected these cables, and my whole body started to glow, and I was like, wow, okay, now I understand
Wow.
what people talk about when they say this pranic flow, so to say.
Hmm.
I mean, before this, I heard about this, I read about it, but being generally a bit of a skeptic and kind of a what I cannot measure is not there
Hmm.
attitude,
Hmm.
So this totally changed my worldview. I needed some time to digest this then, but this being kind of told me, hey, you're human and you're living, you're dying, you're forgetting, you're reborn, you're living, you're dying, you're forgetting, you're reborn. And I am this plant intelligence, I'm this consciousness, which has this consecutive consciousness stream going on since eons, since millennia, like for hundreds of thousands of years. And you now tapped into me, so I teach you a bit what
Wow.
I can teach you.
Wow.
And that was really a quite impressive experience for me.
Yeah.
Um, it then shapeshifted to different persons. One person, for example, it shapeshifted to a quite known person in the Swiss psychedelic scene, like a friend of Albert Hoffmann, who was back then still alive. And this shape shifting, I couldn't make anything out of it because it was the publisher of Albert Hoffmann's and Stanislav Grof
Hmm.
books in Swiss and German, or generally in the German-speaking realm, which is Switzerland, Germany, Austria. And I didn't know why this plant spirit all of a sudden kind of shape shifted or morphed into this publisher.
Hmm.
Then it shifted back, and I didn't really know what to make out of it. But I had this profound opening into this energetic, spiritual dimensions, which led me on a way starting practicing yoga, doing meditation, starting vipassana, going on different meditation retreats, different styles,
Hmm.
and practicing these different spiritual techniques, which actually changed my life tremendously to the better.
Wow.
And then um, about 5 years later, after this experience, I met this publisher
Okay.
and he asked me, we talked a bit at a psychedelic conference,
Hmm.
and then he said, we don't have a book on Iboga, and you told me now about your experience. Don't you want to write a book on Iboga?
Wow.
And so I came into writing a standard reference in German-speaking countries on Iboga,
Hmm.
which made me then at that point like blew my mind because how did this plant spirit somehow knew this already 5 years in advance? So
Hmm.
it was quite impressive.
Wow.
But yeah, this was kind of my spiritual awakening, or let's say the spark that ignited the fire or the thirst of exploring more in this direction. And
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's profound. That's absolutely amazing. I would love to meet like a Groot-like being. I'm not sure how I would feel if it just like showed up. It might be a little bit overwhelming, like you mentioned. But yeah, that sounds amazing. I love both of those characters from the Lord of the Rings, the tree beings, the Ents, and I love Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So, for the people that aren't so familiar with Iboga and Ibogaine, what is Iboga and how what makes it different from other psychedelics or entheogens?
So Iboga is a 1 to 2 meter tall shrub originating from Western Equatorial Africa, like Gabon, Cameroon, this area.
Hmm.
And people there use the root bark since quite a while for initiations, like a spiritual tool for connecting to the other worlds. In the Bwiti cultures, it's kind of an ancestral cult there. And they give quite substantial doses of Iboga root bark to initiate people into the astral dimensions. They say you are only like a full member of the tribe or being taken serious if you have undergone this initiation, which is like a guided near-death experience.
Hmm.
And after your body has detached from your astral body has detached from your physical body. You wander in these astral dimensions, and then you come back and you are reborn as a full member of the tribe. Often this is kind of a rite of passage. So teenagers, young adults are doing this. And then when they come back, they are seen as now you have experienced it. You don't need to believe anymore that there are these other worlds. It's like a first-hand experience. And with this, you are a grown-up member of the society there, so
Wow.
to say.
So
And
they
the
so they
difference,
give it to the teenagers, what, around like 13 years old, 14, 16, something like that?
this could be, I know people who were even initiated when they were 7, when they
Whoa.
are, in the succession line, like the let's say the daughter or the son of the head shaman of the village will be initiated a bit younger.
Hmm.
And some people, others, maybe 17. I experienced also people initiating with 20 to 30, something like this. So
Hmm.
it depends a lot on where you're standing. So people in the shamanic lineage, they're often earlier, other people sometimes even in their late 20s, early 30s.
Wow. Okay. So you've actually gone and studied with the tribes that
Yeah,
work
yeah,
with
yeah.
Iboga. Uh-huh. And how many of the different tribes in Africa work with it?
There are quite a few different. I don't know exactly how much, but it's like it started off with the Pabongo pygmies, which are like these tiny people, like nomadic, living in the forest, and there are different pygmy tribes which are actually using Iboga, and they taught the use to the Misoko and to the Apinji. And these people then they were more in villages and not living nomadic. And then also these people taught it to the Fang ethnia and the Fang ethnies. So there are these minimum 4, 5, 6 different tribes or ethnicities using it. But I think a bit more.
So is it ever used in a way where the whole community comes together and does a ceremony, or is it mostly just for
Yes.
initiation?
No, 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 no. The initiation is just like the being baptized, so to say.
Okay. Okay.
And once you're baptized, you can partake in these Bwiti ceremonies, which are quite interesting. It's like a party, like a come together, but it's also a deep spiritual work and it's a communal thing. So people come together and everybody eats a tiny bit of iboga and they sing together, they dance together, they rattle together. But then there's a part of the ceremony where everybody introduces themselves. And then there's a part of the ceremony where the people can kind of make complaints over what is going on in the village. So I've been in a ceremony where one woman stood up and complained that the man didn't help enough in the general in the village in the housekeeping. And so it's a community thing where everybody takes smaller doses, way smaller doses than these super high initiatory doses,
Hmm.
where first before this room is opened up to communicate, a lot of singing and rattling and drumming is being done,
Hmm.
which kind of creates a certain vibe where everybody is vibing on. And then there's this room where people can come up with problems, where people can come up also with positive things like being thankful to the spirits for whatever might have happened. And then there's a part of the ceremony where when this talking has been done, then the dancing starts, and then they dance together. And this is like a really night long till the sun rises,
Hmm.
and it kind of gives a strengthening of sense of community to the whole village. So this is something which happens quite regular, and they take way lower doses than these initiatory doses.
Okay.
But usually the people partaking in this are initiated.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. So, with a higher dose, the medicine lasts for about 24 hours. Is that right?
It can even go longer. Like
Okay.
I witnessed people taking quite substantial high doses, and let's say it can go like they might not walk for 3 days or so, but these are then really higher doses.
Okay. That's like the initiatory doses that you
Yeah,
were mentioning, right?
yeah,
Okay. Did you ever take one of those higher doses before?
yeah. I'm initiated in a Disumbafang tradition.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. So, what was that like? Can you share a little bit
Super
about that?
interesting. I mean, the most interesting part was not necessarily taking the Iboga because I have done Iboga in Europe already quite a few times before going to Africa.
Hmm.
So what was super interesting for me was the actual preparation, which took like 10 days or so. And for 5 days, I had to take showers, like not real showers, but plant bath. Like they give you this buckets with like 20, 30 different plants and barks of different trees and this. And so I had to do 5 times a day for 5 days, these baths. And during these baths, in between these baths, they gave me special kind of smoothie. And after drinking such a smoothie, I would run to the toilet like 10 times and have kind of a diarrhea.
Hmm.
And they would make enemas and they would do this while cleansing, not just cleansing your body and the tube from your mouth to the rear end, but also cleansing yourself psychologically. So they asked me to kind of confess everything, not necessarily with talking, but just kind of getting aware of what I want to let go, what I want to invite in my life, and doing that for 5 days, basically without communicating with somebody else, without having a cell phone, without having books or stuff like that. And the herbs actually are supposed to be dream inducing, so your dreams are quite profound in this phase.
Hmm.
And then they started also asking me for nature signals. So whatever happens, they said, here on the forest is kind of a sign. So they asked me to watch out for every little thing that happens.
Hmm.
And at some point, for example, there was like a huge scarab, like a huge beetle,
Hmm.
like coming and flying a circle around me and leaving. And so I told them, there was this beetle flying the circle around me. And then they said, oh, now you're ready. Here, open your mouth. And then they gave me the first few spoons of Iboga. Still not the high dose, but just a few spoons. And then after this, being a bit high, doing other ceremonies, doing a special intention ceremony where um, spiritual world is opened up and called upon, and you state your intention, doing some more cleansing ceremonies, then doing a special fire ceremony, which all this process again on top of the 5 days lasted another couple days.
Hmm.
And then at some point in these couple days, I would always eat smaller doses, a spoon here, a spoon there. But at some point, they said, okay, now you're ready and cleansed enough. So then there was the day where they gave me the really large dose. They paint you, they put you with special herbs and stuff, and then it was then not spoons, but basically plates of
Wow.
yoga. And then I had to swallow all these. And in a special temple outside of the real temple, kind of a forest temple, being smudged, being in steam bath before that again, and then taking the higher dose, and then barely able to walk. They helped me getting to the temple where I would puke in a special part of the temple and then go to the large part of the temple where I would lie in the middle on a mattress where a mosquito net was over it, and they were playing music and made ceremonies around me, but I was quite gone then.
Right, right. Okay. So, can you share a little bit about what happened in that journey?
Well, it was about different timelines and how you could switch from different timelines, kind of how you can rearrange your own future.
Okay.
Um, a lot of personal stuff that I'm not really wanting to share right now. Also, there are certain things that are not meant for non-initiate people,
For
but
sure.
it was a lot about how one can basically alter the timelines. If your life is on this timeline and you think it goes this direction, there is always the opportunity to switch to kind of another track. How you're not fixed in what you think you're supposed to do, or
And
yeah,
it's
your life.
well, and yeah, so I've had some awareness of that in my own life. And was it shown to you that it's just a decision that shifts that, or is it like an intention? What was it really that changes that gear?
So basically, one of the teachings of Bwiti that I really like is that quite similar with some Kabbalistic teachings even, is that the father or the mother or the source of everything is the thought. But most important, they say to be a fully upright being, like honest, it's important that the thought aligns with what you're saying and the actions aligns also with what you're saying. So you say what you think and do what you say,
Hmm.
so that there's a aligned, straight forward action, so to say, coming from this unified um intention.
Okay, okay. So that brings up another question, which is that not all of our thoughts are ours, right? Sometimes our thoughts can
Yeah.
be from other beings. Sometimes our thoughts can be from, entities or from higher dimensional beings. Did you get any insight on that, like how to differentiate and
Hmm.
fine tune
Hmm.
that?
Yeah, especially with Iboga. I saw on previous Iboga experiences, I saw like these, let's say, like an entourage of different beings that I had around me. And the Iboga spirit taught me, look, these are all beings that either you, via your karmic entanglements, got into your field,
Hmm.
or that you created or that you invited. So there was one time on an Iboga experience, I saw like a huge, massive tick, like really like half the size of myself, sitting on my left shoulder basically and sucking life force out from me.
Whoa.
It was terrifying seeing this being.
Yeah.
And I took Iboga, and the Iboga spirit came and basically effortlessly took this huge tick off my shoulder and kind of expelled it out of my field
Hmm.
and told me, look, every time you smoke, you invite this energetic parasite. Every time you smoke tobacco.
Wow.
So I took this now away from you, and please don't smoke anymore. And the thing was, after this experience, I really didn't have the urge to smoke so much
Hmm.
anymore.
Hmm.
So Iboga helped me to become very centered and clear inside myself,
Hmm.
and to know what are these, let's say, um, what's the right English word? The seducing forces that want you to do this or do that. So with Iboga and meditation, I got quite able to distinguish what is inner core essence from what I consider to be myself, what is an outer force wanting to do something which might not be beneficial from me, or sometimes I had these really angelic light beings coming and giving really good inputs. And I have the experience that Iboga really helps me to first find out what is my true core, my inner will, and how to purify that
Hmm.
so that I'm more aligned with that.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. So when I'm really curious, when you saw the beings around you, did they all look different? Were they all like, did you have blue beings, angelic beings, like native looking beings? Was it like, I'm so curious about that.
I had quite a few different beings. So, Some were at the beginning of my Iboga journey. They were when still being somewhat connected to opiates. Um, there were these not so nice looking beings.
Hmm.
Um, even when they touched or when I got close to them, feeling very cold
Mm,
and not nice thoughts coming up when just putting my attention to them.
hmm.
Then there were these really benevolent beings that were nicer, some of them being even a bit childish, playful, some being more, let's say, lofty, light, full of light and bright.
Hmm.
And the Iboga spirit is a very uh, like I told before, for me, he can take any form, or it can take any form that
Hmm.
speaks to your consciousness. So it kind of, yeah, it's kind of a shape-shifting being.
Hmm.
But in this astral dimensions, or it's like an ocean, you know, there are so many different beings, and maybe some of them don't even bother you because they have their own agenda. Some of them play with you like dolphins, other want to kind of eat you like sharks, and some of them are even afraid of you, even if you don't have bad intentions. So it's quite interesting world to explore, I think.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. So, in that space, when you saw the beings that were kind of cold and things like that, were you able to like say thank you and release them in that space, or was there a way to like end that contract with them through in that space?
Yeah, it was and at some point really like with some of those really dark energies, it felt like an exorcism. It was like, you know, higher doses of Iboga make you puke.
Right.
And at one Iboga experience, I had this, I was taken back to a moment in my life where I have not been a nice person, where I was kind of an asshole. And I really felt sorry for what I did there. And in this moment that I felt sorry, I had to puke. And I puked, and then I saw like this red, dark, glowing thing in the bucket, which looked a bit like a crab or like a cancer, like a yeah, and this kind of fume comes out of the bucket in the astral world, not really in the physical world, and it was really like expelling some demonic, dark entities or forces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I experienced also afterwards that sometimes some of these forces are really angry at us because we who work with Iboga, we kind of, when we work with people who are fully into heroin or opiates, they are sometimes hosts for parasitic energies. And then working with some of these people, it's sometimes like an exorcism where the parasitic energies get angry at us, the people who work with Iboga,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of make psychic attacks
Mm-hmm.
because we take away their hosts.
Right.
So for myself, I first had to clean myself quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, and also learning about yoga and meditation and these things, knowing how to align myself with more divine forces,
Yeah.
um, being in the light helped me a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so that's really fascinating. So uh, I'm curious because, in this reality in this space that we're in right now, uh, I work with different medicines like hape, right? Where it
Mhm.
helps you purge and it helps release other entities and other energy that are taken on by from other people or from other spaces, whatever it is. And so did you see in that space where this energy goes? Like for me, I send it directly up to Creator to get alchemized, but
Mhm. Mhm.
what are some other ways? I know people will bury it, give it to Pachamama, to
Mhm.
Mama
Mhm.
Gaia. You know, what are some
I
other ways
like
that
I
you?
like what you're doing. I do also sometimes like opening channels to the light, like asking higher forces to open channel of the light for every entity that wants to go to the light, wants to be transformed in the light, to be warm, welcoming, and open. But also like the physical purge, like the puked whatever comes out, I often give them either toilet or if it's in nature somewhere, bury it somewhere.
Hmm. Okay. And when you saw the crab come out, what happened to it then? Did it try
It,
to
it
attack
tried
some
to
other?
snap me,
Okay.
and it was like out of the bucket, like snapping, but I felt like, nah, I'm so disconnected from this now, and I flushed it down the toilet.
Okay. 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 So have you seen anything like that happen where people are purging and then somebody else picks up the energy of what they purged?
Well, I have not seen this in Iboga because with Iboga we work with higher doses, more one-on-one, or sometimes even two persons watching over one person.
Hmm.
But I've experienced it in ayahuasca ceremonies,
Okay.
when there are a lot of people sitting in a circle, like 20 people or 15 people in a circle, and you can tell, this person now expelled something, and sadly it jumped on another person.
Hmm.
This
Yeah,
is
that's something that people don't really talk about much. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think that you have to have a really good shaman, a really good space holder that really knows how to move those energies,
yeah,
and so that that doesn't happen. So you don't leave a ceremony with more than you arrived with, you know?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's especially with these larger ceremonies where it's more kind of a um spiritual tourism or so, it can be quite dodgy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So besides like bringing it to the earth and giving it to the light, is there any other techniques that you found are effective?
I mean, I haven't done this, but there is this approach of feeding your demons. Like if there is something that wants to eat you, give yourself to it or so. But I have not done this.
So what's the like ideology behind that? What how does that work?
I heard from a few people working with DMT that they took on this approach where I think it's from Tibetan Buddhism, like a certain Vajrayana direction, where you kind of feed your demons to pacify them. And I heard of people who have been in high dosed ayahuasca experiences or DMT experience where these demonic entities come up from them and they then kind of threw themselves in the mouth of these entities
Uh-huh.
and then being digested and becoming one with the entities, but somehow dissolving then the whole experience into light.
From the inside out.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. That's an intense approach.
Yeah.
I know some people. I've met like one or two people that will like use their breath to remove something from someone. Like they'll
Hmm.
they'll almost like a straw, and
Hmm.
then and
Hmm.
then they'll purge it themselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is what quite a few ayahuasca shamans that I work with are doing. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that I experienced ever with Iboga,
Mm-hmm.
but what I also know about and what I practice myself quite a bit is this Tonglen, where it's also a Tibetan Buddhist thing where you visualize a person who is suffering, and every inhale you take, you visualize the suffering of the person or the pain of the person as a cloud around this person.
Ah.
And when inhaling, you visualize how you suck this cloud from this person, the pain, and you kind of connect yourself to the divinity to higher forces, to your spiritual teachers, and you transform whatever you sucked from them, transform it to light. And when you exhale, you visualize how you exhale pure divine light onto this suffering being.
Hmm.
And it's super interesting because once I was at this, it was kind of a festival, and at the beach, loud music playing, and there were these street dogs, and one of the street dogs just couldn't stand the music, and he was running in circles, totally confused, barking at everyone. So
Hmm.
I sat there on the hangmat and I really visualized, I focused on this poor doggy, a stray doggy, and I inhaled his confusion, his fear, and exhaled like just love, calmness, compassion, and really visualized how the light from higher levels is pouring into this body. And after a few breaths doing this, the doggy got calmer and calmer and sit down and stopped barking. So it's really working in my experience.
Wow. Wow, that's fascinating. So where do you think that energy is going though? Like you're inhaling it. Are you alchemizing it through your body or
I
is
think
it
you're
getting
transforming it. It's what I
okay.
tried, what I asked to connect with my spiritual guides with the divine light and kind of visualize how you transform this to light and give
Okay.
out the transformed, transmuted energies back. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. So I think this is a good place to transition into another question, which is, out of all the medicines that are natural and from the earth and things like that, um, Iboga is one of those medicines that is prescribed for the really high level addictive drugs that are out there, like heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine, right? Things like that. Why do you think? I just want, because you've been doing this research, why do you think this particular spirit is able to help so much more than other plant medicines, for example?
So when we rolled it up from a neuropharmacological viewpoint, not necessarily from a spiritual viewpoint, Ibogaine or Iboga alkaloids um, differ from other more common psychedelics in the spectrum of receptors that they bind to. So common psychedelics like, let's say, DMT, LSD, mushrooms, which is basically also a form of DMT, bind mainly to serotonergic, to subtypes of serotonergic receptors like
Hmm.
5-HT2A, etc. And Iboga binds also to those subtypes of receptors, but it also binds and blocks on the opiate receptors. So besides that, it also enhances the dopamine metabolism, and Iboga is a very strong neuroplastogen, meaning it kind of enhances the neurorestorative quality, or it provokes neurogenesis, like the sprouting of new neurons, basically.
Hmm.
And having this neuropharmacological impact on the opiate receptors is what it really helps for opiate addicts. If you speak picturesque, you have an opiate receptor that is blocked with opiates or opiates bind to it. And if the opiates are metabolized, the receptor kind of says, give me, give me, give me. And this is kind of a withdrawal experience. There's a physiological withdrawal.
Right.
And Ibogaine comes in there, and other than other psychedelics, it also binds to this opiate receptor.
Hmm.
The metabolite of Ibogaine, noribogaine, being quite long lasting, having a long blood plasma half-life. So it binds to these receptors and stays there for some days, even longer.
Okay.
So it has this, on the one hand, this neuropharmacological mechanism of action to really interrupt and stop opiate withdrawals. But then on the other hand, you have this psycho-spiritual insights into
Right.
your life, what are the key positions underlying your addiction, etc.
Right.
So there it's quite different from other psychedelics.
Okay. Okay, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. I didn't know those, those exact particulars about it. That's really awesome.
Mhm.
Uh, so what made you desire to work with Parkinson's patients what made you specialize in that? Can you share that story a little bit?
Sure, sure. So, I just touched briefly now on how Iboga works as a neurorestorative compound or Ibogaine. How and it does this specifically for dopamine neurons, which is super interesting for addicts also because your rewardment system in the brain, ventral tegmental area, consists basically of dopamine neurons. So after an addiction, cocaine, heroin, alcohol, whatever, your rewardment system is basically destroyed a bit. So there also, Iboga helps to restore these dopamine neurons, the rewardment system,
Mm,
which helps then in the long run also to stay sober. And we found out that Iboga helps or has these qualities of really pharmacologically restoring parts of the brain. And this happened to be exactly also those parts of the brain where Parkinson's is happening. So Parkinson's is basically the pathophysiological processes of Parkinson's is a degeneration of dopamine neurons and
mm,
also a dysfunction of dopamine signaling.
okay.
And this is basically also what Iboga or Ibogaine can work on.
Hmm.
So we saw this working good for addicts, and we knew some of these uh, mechanisms of action. So there were some people thinking, hey, this should theoretically also help for Parkinson's.
Hmm.
So there were some people trying it and having some good results. So we went more and more into this direction because Parkinson's is really it's not nice to have Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, we kind of are able to alleviate the quality of life or to alleviate the Parkinson's symptoms and give the people some quality of life with rather small doses because Parkinson patients are usually an older demography, are
Right.
most people over 60 or so in their 70s, 80s. And if those people never have had a psychedelic or never had drug experiences, and you don't want to overwhelm them with this several day lasting near death experience.
Hmm.
So, what we are exploring or started to explore back in 2015 something
Hmm.
is how we can treat or people or make Iboga accessible for people without having to undergo this heavy psychospiritual experience
Hmm.
just to kind of better their symptoms of Parkinson's. So we are trying or now quite successful with some people are helping people with microdoses, very small doses of Iboga or Ibogaine
Hmm.
on a daily basis, help to rejuvenate or kind of restore these parts of the brain, dopamine signaling and dopamine neurons.
So is it also, I mean, so with the dopamine signals being more restored, is that also impacting their gait, like the way they're walking?
Yes, yes, yes. We had people who had like up to 8 hours, 10 hours freeze of gait, meaning they want to walk, they want to get up, but they're just not able to walk and not able to get up.
Hmm.
And we got them down to half an hour of freeze of gait per day.
Wow.
So we had also people who were absolutely not able to walk anymore, like really being basically paralyzed and in the need of 24 hours a day care.
Hmm.
We got them back to riding a bike. So we had
Wow.
some quite miraculous changes there. But
Wow.
on the same hand, we also had people who didn't react at all to to Iboga.
Okay.
And the reason for this is there are these different causes for Parkinsonism. So some people, like for example, boxers Muay Thai fighters, MMA fighters have
Mm-hmm.
a much higher probability to get Parkinson's than others. Then there are different genes that increase the likability to get Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are people who worked with, let's say, mercury or other environmental toxins. For example, farmers who spray a lot of herbicides and pesticides have a quite high possibility or higher possibility to get Parkinson's. So there are all these different reasons for Parkinson's. And for some people, it really works super good, Iboga, but for some, it doesn't work at all. So now we are in the process of kind of figuring out what which Parkinsonism, which type of Parkinsonism reacts the best to it,
Okay.
and if we can determine whether it will work for this person or not work for the other person. But it's a work in progress. It's basically
Um,
what we're researching currently.
Amazing. So out of the ones that you've seen so far, which ones were able to ride the bike and things like that? Was it the non-MMA fighters, the
No,
more
we
genetic?
had actually boxers who could get better
Mm-hmm.
with Iboga, but they didn't have the real profound um, results. The most profound results were either with idiopathic Parkinson's, knowing meaning not knowing where the Parkinson's coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and we are hypothesizing, but it's also something where I cannot guarantee, or it's still a working hypothesis, is genetic causes. There are like six genes which like misfolding or yeah, when certain dopamine transporter folds and roots within the cell, there's a gene which causes misfolding, and ibogaine works as a pharmacochaperone, meaning kind of a scaffold to help this protein to root and fold correctly inside the cell. So this might be one or is one of our working hypotheses.
Okay. Okay, that's profound. Really profound. And so it brings up the question, what's the difference between Ibogaine and Iboga?
So Ibogaine is the main active alkaloid out of the Iboga shrub, but you can imagine a bit like Ibogaine being like the THC of Iboga,
Mm,
meaning it's the main active alkaloid, but there are all these other alkaloids. It's like the center of the cyclone is Ibogaine, but there are all these other little molecules that kind of give an entourage effect or kind of give a certain nuance to the experience.
hmm.
So if you take just pure, like 99.9 pharmaceutically pure ibogaine hydrochloride, the experience in itself is rather clinical, rather sterile. So
Okay.
there, for me, there is something missing. Like I didn't experience this plant spirit in my first ibogaine experiences, but
Hmm.
I got to know him with the iboga, with
Hmm.
the full spectrum, with all the alkaloids, with the full plant. Um, I mean, in a clinical setting, we have to use 99.9% pure ibogaine to make research. But I get often the from people the remark, or they tell me how with Iboga, with the full spectrum, they have a more round experience. They have a certain deeper spiritual connection,
Hmm.
and also these entourage effects of some of the alkaloids, looking at it from a more
Hmm.
scientific viewpoint,
Hmm.
um, could be quite profound because some of these other alkaloids, which are in the plant, in the Iboga shrub, are even stronger in itself than ibogaine, but by mass, much less found in the Iboga shrub. But all
Okay.
these alkaloids together give a certain different experience than just the ibogaine hydrochloride.
Okay, so besides the Ibogaine, because like for example in marijuana there's CBD as well as the THC,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
is
yeah.
is is there another component in the Iboga like that you can also.
Exactly. There's not just Ibogaine, like THC, but there's also Ibogaline, Ibogamine, carbamazepine, gabonine, warcristine, warfarin, like a lot of different other alkaloids that, like CBD or CBN, or the different terpenes and the different flavonoids, which give the different tastes of the different kinds of cannabis. Like this, it's the same with Iboga. Like there are even different subtypes of Iboga shrubs, and some of them are told to be more visionary, others are told to be a bit more body load. So there, it's a also like a little microcosm to explore, like with cannabis, basically.
Okay. And have any of those other alkaloids been studied with Parkinson's?
Not specifically with Parkinson's so far,
Okay. Okay.
not that I
Okay.
know of.
Yeah, I mean that's fascinating. That's fascinating. So and there's no way to give them the whole Iboga microdose.
We do with some, we
Okay.
do, but in a clinical setting, you can't. But we also over here, it's legal, and we have shops selling Iboga, and some people prefer this, and some people prefer that. So some people, the thing is, the Iboga, the root bark ground to powder, is a bit heavier on the stomach.
Okay.
And so some people who have a very sensitive stomach prefer rather the pure ibogaine hydrochloride. But if
Hmm.
the people have a not too sensitive stomach, then usually they prefer the Iboga shrub or the Iboga powder, root bark powder.
And are you seeing any different results in the Parkinson's patients when they take the Iboga?
Usually, my experience is that the full spectrum, like the Iboga root bark, or we also have like what we call total alkaloid extract, where the full spectrum of all alkaloids is extracted, but the people not eat so much wood, basically, then, but
Hmm.
still have the full spectrum, um, has a bit more profound results.
Hmm.
But there is also this psychosomatic aspect to it. For example, people who used to be professors at a university and having a clinical background themselves, they usually prefer pure ibogaine hydrochloride,
Right.
and they don't feel really comfortable with the root bark, with the iboga shrub powder. And other people feeling more connected to the naturopathic side of things,
Hmm.
they feel much more connected with the full spectrum or with the iboga root bark. So there is also this psychological aspect to it.
Yeah, yeah, it's really interesting that, if the more logical minded people just leaned in, it would
It
really
is.
help them find more balance in their left and right brain hemispheres and in their masculine and feminine energy and the yin yang of life, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
yeah, I totally, I can see why those decisions would be made that way.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's very, very fascinating. So with the Iboga root bark, is there any concern of the actual plants being endangered or being over harvested? Is any of that a concern right now?
So there is this thing being said that Iboga is now, I mean, there's a huge interest, and so more and more people harvest it. At the same time, I think there has never been more Iboga cultivated on the planet than now. There are now plantations with 40, 50,000 plants every year coming, 5 to 10,000 new plants, and that's just one plantation. And the people know now there in Africa that this is can be seen as a cash crop,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
And now I know of a lot of plantations in Ghana and in Cameroon and in Gabon. So now it really starts taking lifting off. So There was a moment where some people said it was over-harvested around certain cities.
Hmm.
I think what I now know, or I don't think there was a time on this planet that where Iboga has been cultivated as much as it's being cultivated right now.
Hmm.
But still, for example, for Ibogaine hydrochloride, which they use in the clinics also for detoxing quite a bit, there is this semi-synthetic way where you use another tree, Wakanga africana. It's a tree that is being cultivated for other purposes.
Hmm.
So over Ghana, like in all Central and Western Africa.
Hmm.
And they use the tree of this and they can extract the molecule out of this tree, Boacan gene, and make a easy one-step synthesis, basically a decarboxylation from Boacan gene to ibogaine. And this semi-synthetic ibogaine is a really good option for all the people who basically want ibogaine hydrochloride pure. So this is also the way we go for research, etc. So keeping the spiritual stuff for the more spiritual interested people,
Hmm.
and because healing quality can also be accessed with the ibogaine hydrochloride, which can be also derived from other plants.
Okay, so this plant that you mentioned is a lot more proficient and
Yeah,
available in the wild in
it's
Africa.
being cultivated already before this.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Iboga just started being on a larger scale cultivated maybe in the last 10, 12 years or so.
Okay. 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 So, yeah, I mean, I only know one person that has worked with it, and so it's still kind of, at least in America, it's still not so explored like ayahuasca
Hmm.
or,
Hmm.
mushrooms and those kind of things.
Yeah,
It's still kind of uh, at least here in America, it's not
yeah,
as popular and it's not really being used. I know in Costa Rica, Mexico, there's Iboga facilities and centers and things like that, but
yeah.
in America, I don't know any any places that are
Yeah.
serving or
I
using
heard
it.
that now in Colorado and in Oregon and some other states, they want now to open up some centers. And I think Texas is quite, there's some funds being allocated to ibogaine research. So I think there might be coming a wave of ibogaine or iboga possibilities in the states.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's, it seems as though that's where it may be headed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the mass awakening is happening, right? And so there's all these different ways for people to reach that, and this is such a powerful way. And I think that there's such a big problem, especially in America with drug abuse and these heavy drugs like fentanyl and
Hmm. Hmm.
methamphetamines and things like that on the streets,
Hmm.
that something like this could profoundly help people, you know,
Absolutely.
in
Yeah,
in such a
absolutely.
huge way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very needed. It's very needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a beautiful gift that Mother Earth has provided this medicine for people to work with. But it sounds
Very
like
true.
because Europe is closer to Africa, or, basically neighbors, uh, it's coming to you guys much more the availability is much more there.
Yeah, yeah. I think there is now the Ibogaine movement in the United States has, I think, more momentum now than in Europe. I mean, in Europe it's also still quite underground. The thing is that in some European countries it's not listed as a scheduled drug, so it's being sold openly in some shops, and there are internet shops where you can order it basically legally.
Hmm.
In some countries, in some European countries, it's also totally illegal.
Hmm.
But in general, I think Iboga is on the rise all over the planet. Like more and more people get to know about it, and more people are interested in it. And I think it's needed somehow, as you say.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Just like so the way that I kind of perceive it is like ayahuasca is the grandmother and Iboga is like the grandfather.
People say that, yes. People
Yeah,
say that.
it seems like they're different, but they both carry a very important medicine for people that are ready for that and feel a really powerful call towards that.
Yes, yes.
So is there
True.
anything that
Also,
the
yeah.
sorry, what was that?
No, you go first.
I was just going to ask another question. Like for the tribes, is there anything that they do in the preparation of the bark? Do they add any like other substances to it? Like,
I read about it, but I've never witnessed it.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, what I was about to say is, since this is the Spiritual Teachers podcast,
Hmm.
and I often saw people, especially in the ayahuasca world, basically running from ceremony to ceremony.
Yeah.
What Iboga taught me, and what also Bwiti is doing, is at some point they say that opening into the spiritual world, the Iboga is the master teacher for this, but a bit further down the line, you would always need less and less and less of the substance, that ultimately at some point you want to be able to reach those states without taking the substance. So the substance basically, or the master teacher, master plan teacher being just the catalyst of you, making you aware that what else is there.
Hmm.
And once you kind of unlocked these things, um, where I really, at first I was a bit confused, but then I appreciated really the teaching of the Iboga, because at some point the teaching was clear for me. Hey, you don't take high doses of Iboga anymore. You need to learn to do this by concentration, by meditation, by own effort, not just by opening your mouth and swallowing something.
Hmm.
So I also heard that this is in the Puyi tradition basically the way to go, that you need less and less and less to
Hmm.
achieve the same thing. So this is where I really it's not the easiest to do, but I really appreciate this plant spirit endorsing or emphasizing to me to reach all these states without pharmacological help. The pharmacological help being like the eye opener, so to say, but then go for it by own pure will and dedication.
I think this is where it's all going.
Yeah,
I think that the medicines are here as a teacher, and then they'll let you know when they're done with you,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I've found that this is this, from talking with different friends who have worked with many different types of plant medicines. When you work with a plant spirit where it's natural, it's not synthetically made, then the plant spirit will eventually say, "This, we're complete." You have to find another way. And I have a friend who worked a lot with the acacia plant, and he
Hmm.
and he would you know turn it into DMT,
Hmm.
and eventually the DMT told him, we're done here. You're in a timeout, until you've done the work in this reality on
Yeah,
yourself, and then maybe we'll come back again. And
yeah.
then and then what was interesting is he shared a story with me about his father being a hippie in the 60s and 70s, and now watching the news and things like that, and being really, you know, somewhat brainwashed again,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Coming
yeah,
out of
yeah.
that frequency. And his dad said, I'm open to taking some. And he
Hmm.
took some, but the experience he had was like the medicine was like, what are you doing here? You're not ready to be back here yet, you know?
Hmm.
And
yeah.
I thought that was really fascinating because it's like it's all frequency. So
Hmm.
if he wasn't on that frequency, it would make sense why the medicine would just say like, "There's nothing for you to see here right now. Come
Yeah.
back, come back at a later time when you've done
Hmm.
some
Hmm.
deeper work on yourself," right?
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Makes this, I think this the differentiator between a real teacher or between a substitute of
Right.
like substituting one substance with another or really teaching how to live freely.
Yeah, and I believe from my experience, the different plant medicines have activated certain uh, deep aspects inside myself.
Hmm.
Like different awarenesses that I didn't have before taking the medicine.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so like in this reality, right? Like certain medicines allowed me to see from a higher perspective of what was happening in my programs, like where I was playing the same cycle over and over again, those deep awarenesses, or
Hmm. Hmm.
these awarenesses of like where I was self-sabotaging and
Hmm.
catching it in the moment, or
Yeah,
where
yeah,
where
yeah.
my beliefs were limiting me, where I was blocking
Hmm.
myself. And all
Sure.
those things, I didn't have those awarenesses to the extent that I did after working even just one
Hmm.
time with a certain medicine,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so for me, it's profound how that can get activated for people.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know what it's like for other people, but I know for myself, every different medicine. I've only worked with natural,
Hmm.
non-synthetic medicines, and every single one has given me a different uh, upgrade. Like because I
Yeah,
believe every plant medicine has a different spirit. Even the
yeah.
different cactuses have a different spirit. The different mushrooms sometimes
Mm,
have a different spirit. Some of them will
yeah.
take you more into the astral realm. Some will take you more into the body so that you feel more of what you're meant to feel right now in this reality, right? And
Yes.
it's I've met many people that just feel more comfortable in the spiritual realms than in this reality, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
and we incarnated, I believe we reincarnated here so that we can be in this body and have this human experience and learn what we're here to learn and not try to escape. Because if you're
Mhm.
just escaping into the spiritual realm all the time, then you're not getting the deeper lessons.
Yeah, yeah,
For
yeah,
some people, it's like going and playing a video game. They get to see
yeah.
all these beings and get to, see clowns and or
Mhm.
whatever they experience, right?
Mhm.
And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, but how is that serving you in this reality? And how is that allowing you to be more of service and more loving and more compassionate
Exactly.
and more caring and, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
helping the
Yeah,
planet, you know?
like some people once said it's not so much about just going to experience in the other worlds, but how do you embody it? How do you bring it into this physical reality?
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. So I love that you mentioned that. I love that you emphasize that. And I think that it's profound the effects that Iboga can do for people. And you know, have you had the experiences of what I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast where it's like showing you your life and kind of breaking it down?
Yeah,
That,
yeah, 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 yeah.
okay.
Like I had multiple Iboga experiences, and it really dissected then parts of my life, and it kind of emphasized often those parts where I have not been such a nice person, where usually I used to tend to look back on my life with like this rainbow and unicorns glasses,
Mhm.
and it then picked out these parts where, hey, here you were not so nice, and this is a character trait where you should kind of polish or refine your character more.
Mhm.
And it actually was the first, let's say maybe even 10 Iboga experiences or so. It was just all in an intra-psychological bubble of myself where I had to tidy up my past, where I kind of got teachings, now do embody this. And after really having straightened out my life and being able to take Iboga, looking back on my life without any remorse, without being sorry for anything, but being just in peace, also with all the mistakes that I have done, kind
Hmm.
of making up for them, kind of, after some Iboga experience, I started to write letters to people who I hurt at some point in my life, and I tried to make up for a lot of things that with my parents, I made a lot of peace, and all these things first came up in Iboga experience, and then after having made so much peace and working through some of these things, um, taking Iboga then opened me up to kind of the next level where I really got able to do this astral traveling, this astral wander in the astral worlds, like knowing my body is lying there somewhere, but my spirit is walking in these total different dimensions. And that I was only able to do after I was every time this looking back in my life would happen, and every time coming out of it, every time I would tidy up a bit more. And
Hmm.
only after having really tidied up my past and being in peace with my past and being totally content with it, I could kind of pass on to the other levels.
Okay, so the medicine wouldn't let you proceed forward until you cleared your karma, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's really fascinating. I was wondering when or if that ever stopped for people on like when
Hmm.
they would take the medicine. And that makes total sense, right? Like
Yeah.
come into peace with everything that we've done and also, feeling the emotions and releasing them and those kind of things. That's profound. I mean, that's absolutely mind like you know like
Yeah.
that's
Yes. Yeah.
incredible, like
Hmm.
absolutely phenomenal how the medicine can do that, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
because so
Very
much
much.
of what most people are doing, the majority of society is creating more karma for themselves.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if they were actually able to look at all the ways that they showed up in a way that wasn't in alignment, that wasn't, you
Hmm.
know, being kind-hearted and compassionate and those kind of things,
Hmm. Hmm.
man, imagine the world that we would be living in.
Yeah. 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 I totally understand Bhutis who say to graduate, so to say, to be full grown-up member of the tribe, you need to die minimum once in such a near-death experience to really understand, hey, material world is just this super tiny fraction of reality, and your spirit will live on, and you also should look out on what you're spiritually doing, so to say.
I think that, and I've mentioned this on other podcasts, I believe that we're in a earth school
Yeah, absolutely.
where
100%.
it's like we're learning how to clear certain and learn lessons, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
and and as much as we're all souls and all that, it's like you're not going to give a kindergartner a calculus problem and say, okay, go ahead and solve this, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like you have to go through the different lessons,
Yeah.
the different experiences, and something that I may have found really difficult in my life 10 years ago, if it happened now, would be much more manageable with
Absolutely.
with those kind of things, right? Or
True.
because of what I've experienced. And so it's like the lessons and the depth seems to progress, and then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what are you gonna learn from this one now, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how deep can we go with this?
Yes.
And how much non-attachment can I practice? How much
Yeah. Yeah.
of these lessons of like, okay, you know, we're co-creator. I believe we're co-creators, right?
Hmm.
We're creating certain types of our reality, like you were saying. We can change our timelines at certain if you have the awareness and the intuition to recognize where the fork in the road is happening, or even in
Yeah.
the moment to be like, okay, I'm not doing that anymore.
Hmm.
I'm choosing this road now. You know,
Yes.
those
Yes.
kind of things. And I think the most profound thing is like being around family, uh,
Yeah.
especially direct family, brothers, sisters, parents, uh,
Hmm.
because they have shown me the programs that
Yeah.
that that are so deeply ingrained, and even programs that I've worked inside myself and cleared
Hmm.
are still happening in
Yeah.
them. And then it's like, okay, I get to stop that with me.
Yeah. 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 True, very true. Yeah. Yeah, there is this jokingly saying, you think you're enlightened? Go to live with your parents for two
Right,
weeks. See
right,
if you're enlightened. Yeah.
right, exactly, exactly. I mean, I went back to see my father this summer,
Hmm.
and I had the most deep purge. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was just like this really deep, like, you know, coming out of a country that was, you know, my family's from Russia, so coming out of
Hmm.
a deeply like survive almost like survival
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
was the program, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
coming to America with just a suitcase, having to build
Oh.
from nothing,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's like there's this underlying like program of like, hey, I need to have more because I'm, you know, he still feels like
Yeah.
that guy sometimes with the one
Yeah. Yeah.
suitcase, you know, and I
Yeah.
can feel it,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I have compassion for that, but that's not my
Hmm.
experience, and I'm not gonna continue to play that forward
Yeah.
because it's not serving me anymore
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
be in that, you know, I believe that the universe is infinitely abundant, and that for every person we can tap into that as long as we remove those blocks to it, you know?
Yeah, true, true, true. It's sometimes really good to kind of transcend these generational patterns. I had this also, like kind of certain fears or certain patterns that are just passed down or generation, and I think every person has at least the opportunity or should maybe even kind of look into how to transcend or free these transgenerational patterns, traumas. Yeah.
Yeah, well, can you share a little bit about some of the ones that you've cleared?
Sure, 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 sure. So I think, um, well, for me, some Christian aspects are not totally sovereign aspects. I totally admire people like Jesus Christ who teach love and compassion and these things, but I experienced that a lot of Christian aspects are not taking responsibility for your life, but just praying that somebody outside, a savior, will solve certain problems. And for me, I experienced that if I take ownership, take sovereignty, and yes, definitely connect to higher spirits, but start doing myself, work on myself, refining my character, instead of just asking a higher force to do everything for me. It was something that helped me a lot to break free from certain patterns that keep people smaller than they actually are
Hmm.
by just externalizing the divine. and not also realizing oneself as a divine spark,
Hmm.
as part of divinity.
Hmm.
So it felt quite it's a was a huge step for me, but like taking this sovereignty of being co-creator and not just a sheep that asks to being saved.
Right, right. It's like you took your power back, you took your sovereignty back, like you said.
Yeah,
It's so it's really empowering, because
absolutely.
uh, I remember my when I became a Reiki master, I had this profound spiritual experience when I got attuned to Reiki, and my family called the priest and said, "My son is, you know, doing Reiki," and he came to the house in his Mercedes, and he said, you know, that's against our religion. And
Mm.
that was the moment when I said, okay, I hear you, but I've had this profound experience here, and I'm gonna keep going with this because it's really
Yeah,
helping me.
yeah,
And that was kind of my moment
yeah,
where I
yeah.
just said, thank you. I really
Yes.
appreciate everything you've done, and I've had a few really powerful experiences in the church.
Hmm.
But in that regard, I said, I'm gonna I'm gonna go down here now, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was it was really empowering, and also like there's no negative feelings, there's no judgment. It's just where that's at and what I needed to do in that time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah, very
And
good.
and I think that there's a lot of beautiful experiences in the church, and Jesus is one of my main teachers.
Yeah.
And there's different books that, you know, true spiritual masters have written and talked about, and different interpretations of his teachings.
Yeah.
And I really resonate with those.
Yeah.
Like The Second Coming of the Christ is a really powerful book by Paramahansa Yogananda.
I love Yogananda. Yeah.
Yeah, that was his last book that he wrote. It's two big fat books, but that was the
Hmm.
last book that he wrote with all of his meditation practice and all of his years of
Hmm.
deep study with his gurus. And
Yeah.
it actually was published after he died by his students. So
Okay. Yeah.
that book kind of is what I'm reading now. And then there's another book
Hmm.
called The Way of Mastery, which is this woman who channels the true teachings of Jesus. And
Okay. Well,
another really
interesting.
powerful one. Yeah. Because, for
Hmm.
me, I gauge things by what resonates and what, is feeling like it's the thing I need to read in that
Yeah.
moment. And
Yeah.
sometimes that means just abandoning, stopping a book at like the
Hmm.
middle, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I come
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's profound because it's like I'll come back to
Yeah.
that book, and it's
Yeah.
exactly what I'm going through in my life.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think Ramana Maharishi once said you everything that is supposed to happen in your life happens when it's supposed to happen,
Right,
and there is nothing you can do to prevent this, and also there is nothing you can do to make something happen that is not supposed to happen.
right.
So it's yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that's really interesting that you brought that up because it's like if if that were completely true, then we wouldn't be able to shift timelines.
Well, I think he says not everything in life. He says there are, as far as I understood it, there are these certain key points
Right,
that even before being born will happen, no matter what.
right,
But it's like, this simile of this quiver of certain arrows, and there is these different kinds of karma, and this arrow that you have shot is no matter what, this arrow that you already shot will come back to you. This is this one kind of karma that you cannot evade.
Right.
So look out that all the arrows that you shoot are benevolent. But then there are also there's the quiver, and there are these techniques to empty, so to say, the quiver, and
Mhm.
being aware of what you shoot out. And so there are these arrows in this lifetime that come back to you, no matter what you do. You cannot evade this.
Right.
But how you react to these arrows is then again what will result, or what type of arrows you're shooting out, or if you stop shooting out certain arrows. This is then something where you can determine that it's basically this question of determinism versus free will. And as far as I understand it, it's both a bit. Like we determined certain things in previous existences, but we still have the free will to determine what we are sending out now,
Right.
which will be our determined events later.
Yeah, it's like we get to decide if we want to suffer from these
Yeah,
experiences,
yeah,
right? It's like it's gonna happen, but then we decide, okay, how long do I want to suffer with this?
yeah,
Yeah, and for me, it's been like I'm I'm gonna try to come back to gratitude and love and compassion
hmm
way
best.
more than that. But that doesn't mean that, there's a difference between feeling all of what is coming at you, right? Like feeling the
Yeah.
arrow entering you, right? And being like, "Oh man, that really hurt," right?
hmm
And not
hmm
not being like, "Okay, I'm going to put some numbing cream on it and I'm not going to
hmm
feel it." It's like, "No, I'm going to feel this arrow all the way through. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to experience the bloodshed and the all the emotions that come with that, right?
hmm
But then I'm not going to allow it to dictate my life moving forward. I'm not going to keep
Yeah.
going back every day and being like, "Hey, I got shot with this arrow
hmm
yesterday. I got shot with
hmm
this arrow last month." It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
like I can I can say, "Okay, I got shot with an arrow. Now
hmm
I'm ready to, go
Get
spread
up and
spread spread the teaching,
continue.
spread the love."
Yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that works. And yeah, it seems like uh there's like contracts with people,
Yeah.
right? Like those contracts, they're either like they either can be broken or
hmm
they have to be played out,
mm
right? It seems like certain contracts have to be played out
hmm
uh, because that person is such a pivotal key player or key
Yeah,
character in our story.
yeah, yeah.
And you know that's how I look at it. I mean, contracts I believe can be broken and cleared, but it has to get to a certain level, I think, with the
hmm
contract before it can be like, okay, we've taken the contract to where we decided. Now we get to choose: are we going to renew this contract or
Yeah,
put it
yeah, yeah.
aside? You know?
True, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
as they say, wherever you put more energy in, it will just inflate. And so at some point, sometimes it's good to say, hey, I'm done with this. I put my energy in another direction.
right, right, absolutely. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you on today, Tobias. This was fascinating, super interesting, and I
Thank you so much for the chat. I really enjoyed it. It's nice speaking with other spiritual open persons. Thank you very much for
yeah, and I want to
inviting.
give a shout out to
Yeah.
Brandon for connecting us, and
Yeah, thank you, Brandon.
yeah, yeah,
Great
for
shot.
yeah, for just being an awesome connector,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
bridging for you to come on here. I mean, uh, your story is so fascinating and so profound, and the work that you're doing is really making an amazing, huge impact on the planet. So I'm so
Thank
grateful
you very
to
much.
know
Thank
you
you.
and to have had this conversation, and hopefully I get to meet you in person one day.
Yeah, yeah, would be great. Would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I plan to go to Europe at some point. So I'll let.
When you come over, write me a message, and when you are here in the area, I can show you around to some really nice nature places. There are some really beautiful power places in the Black Forest and in the Alps.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes, thank you so much. Nature, I love nature and I love seeing all the different aspects of it. So, Tobias, thank you so much. And until next time, take care.
Until next time, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.